Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the All Nighters 2. I'm your host, Jack, and with me, your co host, Joel.
Hey everyone. Glad to see y'all. Though wish it was in better circumstances. We're venturing into the horrifying Louisiana Bayou today. And personally, I'm terrified. How about you, Jack?
I'm like partially terrified, partially accepting, this is my mom's side of the family I'm about to go visit. It's just another good old Christmas vacation in New Orleans,
I'm home.
Louisiana.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
home.
lit.
I'm back. It's another year out on the bayou.
Yeah. So tell me, like, ratio of crazy molded people to like normal people in Louisiana. What's the ratio, you know? Is it 50-50 or are we 25-75? What are we looking at?
Well, you see here, today we're going to be covering Resident Evil 7. This game would make you think that most of it is like 50% like crazy people and 50% molded people, but I have to say it's like 90% crazy people and 100% like just southern drawl, southern charm,
Southern
absolute
draw, southern
lunatic
charm.
behavior.
Okay, all right. Before we get
It's
into
like
the
a weird
game,
mix.
because oh boy, we've got a lot to say about Resi 7. This game makes me sad in a good way because it's so good. Uh, who's crazier in your opinion? The average Louisianian or the average Florida man? Like if you had to match them in a death battle, power scaling wise, who comes out on top in terms of insanity?
Oh, that's tough. You see, you think he would be the Florida man in the end just because, you know,
Yeah.
they're often depicted doing crazy things, but I think that's just, the embodiment of the American spirit right there. I think
Hmm.
actual Louisianans, like, they're kind of like sleeper agents, dude. You don't know what goes on down there. Like, it's remote down in that bayou. What happens in the bayou stays in the bayou.
True. True. Where's
Like, just
Waterboy
just
set?
one trip.
That's
Waterboy.
Louisiana, right?
Oh, that's also Louisiana. Yeah, he plays
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
fictitious school. But
Fictitious
yeah,
school, but
dude,
it is Louisiana, right? You don't know if
it
Bobby
is
Boucher's in
Louisiana.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, hey, look, man. All I'm saying is one walk down Bourbon Street at the age of 7 will change you forever.
Mm. Well, I'll make sure that if I have or adopt kids, I will not let them down Bourbon Street at the age of 7 because I want them to be well adjusted.
Yeah,
The
please do not let them witness the fat bikini man.
fat bikini man. Oh my god. We're gonna have to talk about that after the pod. Anyway, back on
After,
topic.
yep.
Resident Evil 7 is a highlight of horror games. Was it 2017 or 2018? Jack, you want to take
I
this
want to
or
say 2017. Yeah,
I'm looking
I
it
think
up?
as you look into it, I
Yeah,
so for
2017.
those of you who, okay, yeah, 2017. So I remember I personally was never a Resident Evil fan the time this game came out. I got onto the series after Resident Evil Village was out for a year. I had got my PlayStation 5 probably like 2 years after it was made. Came back from college. I was looking for games to get, and then I saw Resident Evil 2 was on sale. And since I was in the coattails of having finished Alien Isolation because our buddy Daniel recommended it to me, I was like, well, I've never really played a horror game before. Why don't I, try this one? It's because I've heard great things about
Yeah,
Resident Evil. So I got RE2 Remake, and that game blew me away. And I was like, oh my
RE2
god,
remake's
that was
great.
awesome. It was an awesome game. But then I like looked around further, and I remember you, Joel, recommending Resident Evil 7. I was like, all right, I want more Resident Evil. So I stepped into this one, and this one took it to new heights. I can easily see why this game is one of the best in the series, if not the best, in my
I
personal
think it's the
opinion.
best. Yeah.
I fully agree. And this was also like, this marked a point in the series. I've looked into the history of it where, uh, Resident Evil 4, like, phenomenal success. Resident Evil 5 started, you know,
Decline in
continuing the
quality
tone shift.
into an
Yeah,
action
Resident Evil
game.
6,
So
like, yeah.
full action.
So it was time for the
Yeah.
soft reboot of the series. And so I think stepping back hard into the horror was exactly what the series needed.
I want to actually touch on this because Resident Evil 7 came out in a time and place where, at least for horror games, on the AAA side, I should say, indie games, you had horror games at the wazoo. Five Nights at Freddy's was still running strong. I think the Slender series was still getting games, though it was falling off because the Slender Man trend had largely died. But indie gaming has always been pretty good at keeping horror games pumping along. When everybody says horror games are dead or whatever, they're talking about AAA games because they, trust me, go on Steam, you will find a billion horror games that are all amazing, kind of thing, and some that are really, really bad. But in the AAA space, PT Silent Hills had just been canceled. I think that got canceled in 2014 because in 2015 MGS5 came out, give or take. I might be off on the dates here, but we come off the death of that. There had been some like commercial flops of horror games. Nothing really new was coming out at the time, except for Alien Isolation. But then there was the controversy of that scoring negatively with the press. Like IGN gave it a 4 out of 10 or something because they had some
Yeah, it
game-breaking
was
bugs.
low.
Like it was an egregious review, but granted, the guy you quite literally couldn't play it. His machine wouldn't run it. I cut him a little slack. But the time that Resident Evil 7 came in, it was looking dour for AAA horror games, and then this game comes in and it blows everything out of the water. Amazing. It was an amazing time to be like a horror game fan. And granted, I should be completely transparent here. I was not old enough to buy Resident Evil 7 on my own at the time, and my mother had a very strict policy where she'd let me play some M-rated games, but not like the horror ones. So I'm talking about this from a let's playing side of things. Like I was so happy to get the Resident Evil 7 Let's Plays. I watched that game as soon as it came out. I would refresh. I think I was a big, I think Jacksepticeye played the game, and I'd refresh like hourly, waiting for the next chapter of his Resident Evil 7 playthrough to come up. I was in it, man. And then when I finally got to like buy M-rated games on, Red 7 was the first Resident Evil I got, and played through it all the way. Loved every second of it. It was a few years after it came out that I was able to play it. I'd forgotten most of everything, so that first playthrough scared the shit out of me. Like your first playthrough, really scary, right?
Yeah, it was definitely very intense, and I had no idea what to expect because I had played RE2 remake, and I'm sure this is what a lot of people who are fans of Resident Evil experience. You have these genre-defining games, and it's gotten into this formula, and then you get into Resident Evil 7, and it just flips the script on its head. It's first person, and that's a design thing I want to talk about, right? I think we should start
We
segueing
should
to
definitely
design of
focus in
this
on
game. Yeah, this is the first person Resident Evil.
that.
Most horror games, they usually go for the first person perspective because it puts you in a character's shoes. It's really easy to have something lunge out at you and like grab your character and like get in your face. And I think it plays to that advantage, but also like compared to like the originals and like similar to like old horror games like Silent Hill as well, like fixed camera angles were what was genre defining. Now you could actually get immersed in the experience, but like this game, I must say, looks absolutely phenomenal in the RE engine.
For being close
Absolutely
to what,
gorgeous.
3 plus, for being close to 7 years old, I still think it could come out today and be like, yeah, this is top of the line, like graphics quality kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and here's the thing. The RE engine was made for Resident Evil 7, but then they've carried it over to all the remakes. They've used it in Devil May Cry 5, which looks
Yeah,
phenomenal.
one
Like
of the best
this
looking
engine
games.
keeps Oh yeah, this engine keeps pumping out like awesome quality graphical masterpieces,
Yeah,
like without compromising art style.
it's great for that. I want to talk about that pivot to first person as well. To take an established series like Resident Evil that is known for third person camera work, and they've already done that. It's another revolution, if that makes sense, because like the first three games, you have the fixed camera, right? Fixed camera angles, but then the fourth game, Resident Evil 4, revolutionized third person action in general, where it made it over the shoulder. You were over Leon's shoulder and you were aiming, and sure, it was really janky, but that was a camera angle that had not been done for that type of game ever. And then they do it again. Granted, people have done it before them now, but they make this genre shift and change to first person with Resident Evil 7. More innovation. It's really cool, I think. Yeah.
Yep, I fully agree. And I also want to add, like, if you don't mind me talking a
Mm.
bit about the technical stuff before we jump into the actual
The
story.
technical stuff
I
is
mean,
very interesting.
oh yeah, it'll kind of dip its toes into the story a bit, but like some things like I like on this replay realized like the lighting is phenomenal and just the way like
Hmm.
you step into like you'll be in a light lit room and then you'll step through the door into a dark one and it'll take a second or two for your eyes to fully adjust. Like the camera will actually like have to transition the lighting
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
as if like your eyes are trying to get accustomed to the dark.
I want to ask, what system are you playing this on?
Okay, so my initial playthrough, I had PlayStation Plus at the time, so I played
Mm,
my first time around on PS5, which of course is the
nice.
PS4 edition. And then the second playthrough, I don't have PlayStation Plus anymore, so I went ahead and bought for a $20 sale Resident Evil 7 on Steam Deck. So
Okay,
I
so you're playing
replayed it
on
on
deck
Steam
right
Deck.
now.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Deck OLED. Yeah, and so it
So,
still looks great on Deck OLED.
yeah,
It runs very well. Only technical compromise I had on the Steam Deck was the opening cutscene. And then, well, it's not even really the cutscene. The cutscene was fine, but it's that first moment when you transition into the
no,
first
the
person POV in the car, and it's just
mhm.
like it's just like the rainbow bar error screen outside the car, and I'm like, what the hell?
What the hell? Okay, I will say this about the game. Where if we're talking technical graphics, right?
Yeah,
The lighting is phenomenal. There's a reason why games like Fear look good even 20 years after, and that's because they've mastered or Thief as well, which Thief looks like dog shit, let's be completely real, but the lighting in that game makes it look amazing. And there's a reason why those games age so well, and that's because of lighting. And I think that's why Resi 7 is going to age phenomenally into the coming like console generations, and not really need a remaster because the lighting is just so good. Sure, some of the textures, especially okay. I think the lighting engine does struggle in the fully lit section when you are walking through the bayou for the first 10 minutes of the game. Some of the light hits the foliage and makes it look kind of fake and plasticky in my
yeah.
experience. Granted, my machine might not be like the top of the line, but it was made really recently. It can run the thing on ultra kind of thing. So I'm pretty confident that it's not a me thing, it's just a game thing. But when you're in those dark areas or when it's evening, when it's the rest of the game, the lighting is perfect. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think it probably has to do. I mean, I'm not a programmer, so I can't comment on any of this. But I would think that it probably has to do with an assets thing.
Hmm.
Just what assets were available. Seeing as like the night, like they probably had a lot of glossy textures because of the water, like being
Yeah, yeah,
mud and
definitely.
on the bayou. So I'm sure like the night lighting was probably more in mind compared to the sunset lighting.
I totally agree. And it's not a big complaint because it still looks good going through and it does sell the believability of the Baker estate, especially. Okay, do you want to get into the game now or do we have more technical stuff that we want to talk about?
Uh, yeah, we could probably jump into the game and honestly bring up other technical stuff. I think we're kind
Okay,
of blue ballsing ourselves.
we are just a little bit. Okay, first and foremost, Ethan Winters is a freak. All right, I can't put it any other way. You walk
Understatement of
into
the
this
century.
you walk into this scary ass bayou. Okay, perfect lighting. It sets the scene. The audio design as well in this game is top notch. You can hear the crickets. Not crickets. What the hell are they called? Cicadas like buzzing around. You can
Yeah.
also hear some frogs and like the sound of the water hitting it, and it's like a perfectly established bayou. And you walk up and you see this creepy old house, and Ethan tries the intercom and it doesn't work. And already as a player, you're getting like, this is bad vibes. This is not good. Granted, our wife went missing and we got to find her, but like, maybe we should call the police.
And that's the thing. Ethan is kind of a freak because like the game opens up and you get a video of Mia at first, like things are going well for her business trip on the ocean, and then
Yeah,
she sends you like a thing saying like stay away, and then Ethan's like calling a buddy and
yeah.
trying to leave, and you find out, hey man, my wife's been missing for 3 years. I just received an email from her. I'm going to Louisiana. Like, buddy, like did you not reach out to anybody else? Like, did you really just like? I mean, I get your
Call a
wife's been
random family
gone.
member.
Yeah, like Ethan's a true like honest, good like that's a committed husband right there. But
See, I
oh
was
my
expecting a
God,
James Sunderland style twist, like immediately based on how like crazy this man is acting. I was expecting it to be like, I murdered my wife or something like that. But no, he is just a loyal husband. But like as soon as
just
after you push that intercom, right, and you walk in and you saw the fucking decapitated cow and the saw blades
he's
and the
like, this is
gore,
fine. She's got to be here.
he has no dialogue for that. That dude is a like
You
he
also
doesn't
saw a
comment on
man
it.
walking in the bayou, like
Oh yeah, just nothing. He says nothing about it, and like either Ethan has balls of steel or he is a deranged freak of nature. And at least on this game, lean more towards deranged freak of nature, and I love that. He's a great protagonist in the sense that he brings a little bit of levity to the scariest Resident Evil game possible by being just so weird. I don't know.
well, and like I think that's really fitting for Resident Evil as a franchise because Resident Evil has always been like in terms of dialogue, this
Oh yeah,
campy B movie thing,
goofy,
like where everyone's making quips. Ethan in this game, he's like lacking
less
those
quippy.
quips. Yeah, less
Yeah,
quippy, but like the fact that like he's in these scenarios and he's not like
and
like
he's reacting like a weirdo. It's
I
like
know.
it
I'm
does give
like
that B movie charm that Resident Evil has. Speaking of campy dialogue, I did want to mention one. It's my favorite one. I have become the master of unlocking from Resident Evil 1. I love that line so much. It's so dumb.
I love all the dumb dialogue in Resident
Uh,
Evil 1. Me eat
yeah.
doggy food.
I forgot about that one, honestly. It's almost on the line of the DMC1 line where it's, I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light.
What is with Capcom? It's such like ridiculous dialogue.
I can't tell if it's localization or if it's how it's written, like in Japanese. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's weird in Japanese, and the localization team is like, let's make this the weirdest possible thing that we can possibly do here.
Exactly. I think what sounds really good in Japan does not sound good in English.
It can though. It depends on
It
the
can
translator.
sometimes. Yeah, it
Yeah,
depends on the translate. I don't know,
like
but
Cowboy Bebop sounds great in English. Actually, better than Japanese in my opinion. But that's just me.
true. I mean, it just depends on how the tone is. I don't know,
Yeah.
but regardless, yeah, you pull up at this house, and I love like the way I need to back up a bit because
Hmm.
when you show up to the house, that intro that you get to like the loading screen where it's "Don't tell Aunt Rhodey" and
Oh
like
yeah, cool
yeah,
as hell.
like all these like different shots of things becoming like moldy and rotting
Hmm.
and like all these different cryptic shots that you're about to face in the game. Like there's
It
so
sets
much
up
revealed in the intro that you do not like know what's happening until you actually go through the events.
it sets up the themes really, really well as well for Resident Evil 7, which I do think a lot of people sleep on this game a little bit. One, as the fact that it was the Kickstarter. People always say RE2 Remake was when Resident Evil got good again, kind of thing. Nah, Resident Evil 7 is where everything, like the Resident Evil Renaissance happened. But two, thematically, this game has a lot working under its surface. Uh, we all agree, pretty much every Resi fan agrees, that this game is genius in design wise, but it tells the story of a really toxic family that was corrupted and going bad, perhaps molding, growing mold because of unaddressed issues very, very well. And we'll get into that. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, well, I'll get to the other stuff as we get on with it. But you go around the perimeter of the outside,
Hmm.
and the intro to this game is just so good for its opening act, where you find this house with a lock on it, and then you
The
see
guest
like
house.
guest house, but like the ghost hunter van to
The
show
sewer
like
gator van, yeah.
yeah, sewer gator, and they're there, and it's one of those like swamp boys, like ghost hunter
Ghost
type of
hunters
type.
shit, yeah.
Yeah, you're like everybody knows it. It's just goofy stuff. But then the fact that like something clearly happened to these people, and you find the newspaper in the van, and you decide to
That they're
go into the
missing,
guest
yeah.
house. Yeah, and entering upon the guest house, it's just such a dilapidated area.
It's
Like
awful. because as soon as you shut the door, like the ambient noise stops, except for maybe the wind. So you're hearing the creaks of your feet on the floorboard. It's building tension perfectly because it sounds like something's wrong in the house, but you can't tell if it's just you knocking things around. Like on my playthrough this time, I kicked a paint can or some shit on the ground. I didn't know it was there. Freaked me out a little. I was like, what is that?
Yeah,
They do
exactly.
sound
Just the
design
way
perfect.
you're waiting for stuff to happen, and just like
Mm,
how like everything's like so rotten and disgusting. Like you go into the dining room and you find the refrigerator, and it's just like this gross, like sticky, gooey, like old food just in the fridge. Like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, like the amount of neglect in this place, and
What
then
about the crow's head in the microwave?
oh, just absolutely insane and nutty.
Yeah. It's
Like
like,
stuff you don't expect to be there.
and this is where, if you're like me, you would try to turn around and run away. Because, let's be honest, a crow's head in a microwave isn't normal. Neither is this rot. Neither is whatever soup they made. So you walk to the back, right? And try to go out the door. Door's locked. You are trapped here in the guest house. And it's great.
Oh yeah, no other option but to press on. And I
Yeah.
really like how quickly this game introduces like one of the mechanics. Like it's a small area, and I think doing the guest house was good because it's a nice segue into mechanics. Like, okay, this isn't like the main area of what's going to happen, but there's still stuff that happened here.
Oh no, you
And
are so right.
the fact that like I love how it introduces one of the first like principal mechanics. Well, one, like it's Resident Evil. You're gonna puzzle solve, and the puzzles are great in this game. But
Hmm.
I absolutely love the usage of these old videotapes that you find throughout the game. And you go in, and, like in the guest house, you see a VCR and you pick up a tape. You're like, okay, fine, let me just, I don't know what else I'm doing. This goes here though. And so you
And
pop
you
it
get
in.
the Sewer Gators tape. It's so good,
You do.
man.
And the game transports you into a view of somebody else with a video camera. And you get to see the Sewer Gators experience. And what happened to them was terrifying. But
Hmm.
before I talk about what happened to Sewer Gators, a word from our sponsor, Pepsi. I'm kidding. No, I'm joking.
It's
But
because I'm drinking a Diet Dr. Pepper.
yeah,
Pepsi Cola, please. I would love money. I
please
I
sponsor
would
us,
I would love some money if you don't mind.
please. But going back to what I was actually meaning to say, um, tangent aside, I love how these VCRs are used to guide the player in like a premeditative way of like, aha, I found something, but
Mm.
somebody else
They
technically solved this for me, and I can learn from their mistakes because the sewer gators, like, they open up the lever to the secret
the
hatch.
secret hatch, yeah. I want
It's
to
like, so,
talk. Oh
yes,
yeah, keep
please.
going. No, no, keep going.
Oh, I was gonna say, I love how it's like, and when you get back to Ethan's perspective, it's like, okay, wait a minute,
It's
let me go check
there.
this out. Yep, there it is, hiding in plain sight.
It's
I should have known.
the guest house is generally so genius, like in terms of designing, because it doesn't just introduce mechanics, right? But you do. You learn how to block when you eventually fight something. We'll get to it. You learn how to walk around. You learn how to examine your environment. You also learn the general puzzle solving, like Jack was talking about. But it also introduces the fact that you are never safe at any time in this game, and we will get to it. But oh my god, that is one of my favorite moments in openings to any game. Touching on the VCR stuff as well, I love how they're used as a tool for players, like you said, but I also love how they give this grounding to the world. Part of my problem with the earlier Resident Evil games and like they how they don't scare me that much is that they don't feel that real. Like the Raccoon City Police Department does not feel like a real place to me. That couldn't exist in my mind, if that makes sense. It's too intricate, it's too big, there's too many like it's too video gamey, if that makes sense.
No, that's
Parts
fair.
of the oh
And I
yeah,
mean, like those older games were built to be arcadey. I do like the I was showing a buddy RE2 remake just this past weekend actually,
yeah,
and I do like how they combined like the museum and police department. I think it's pretty cool, but like it just works so much better here, and
it
especially
does.
like yeah, especially as you learn the family too, the puzzle-ish aspects of the games. I
Makes
can
sense with
personally
Lucas.
exactly.
Yeah, and like they have a way of grounding it with the VHS tapes that like real people go here and real people die horrifically here. It's like that Blair Witch level of like found footage that makes it a little bit extra believable. Sure, do I believe that the Baker estate could exist in real life? No. But in the fiction, it's far more believable than the RPD, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, and it's the fact that this game, compared to any previous one, and frankly to most other horror games, I would argue, this game takes such a believable approach with how
Mm-hmm.
it handles people that you don't know, but it handles them in a missing person style way because you find photos of people everywhere. You find newspapers of people. Um,
A
you
policeman
know,
looks for people. Like,
exactly. You've got a cop actually trying to investigate and find missing persons in the area. And it's just like the swamp, like, it's just such a cryptic place. Like, genuinely stuff can get lost down there. You never
oh
know if
yeah,
someone's been killed by a gator. You don't know if someone like crashed into the swamp and like just never got found again.
can we talk a little bit about the setting? Because this is probably one of my favorite parts of the game. The fact that it is set in Louisiana, of all places, and deep in the bayou. I think that that is such an underutilized environment in horror. Like a swampland that is hot, muggy, and like almost unescapable.
Oh,
I,
absolutely. Well, and also just like with how disgusting it all is
oh
too.
yes, definitely.
Because
Nothing
like
is clean.
for somebody who's, you know, I've been to like southern Louisiana quite a lot growing up. My great grandmother and all that side of the family lives down there. So as a kid, I'd go on several swamp tours. And I kid you not, when all this like Spanish moss dripping from the trees kind of like hides stuff that's in them, and the cypress trees stick like are on stilts poking out of the swamp, and I've seen instances where there's just moss growing on top of the water, and you can't tell there's a gator in there.
It's
It
so
says that
cool.
stuff is like hiding in this environment.
And we can actually, I love it as well because, all right, this is jumping way ahead, but the molded as an enemy type. I know a lot of people don't like them, say they're boring. I disagree a little bit. I think that they're a perfect extension of the environment. You know, the mold monsters walking out of the mud, and it plays on that idea of like a gator could be hiding under the Spanish moss and you can never see it. You are never safe because the swamp itself is trying to bury you. It feels so good to be in this environment in a bad way, you know?
Absolutely, you're right about like the environment and the meshing of the character type. Just because like I could not see any other monster working with this environment, especially with the molded. Because like when it comes to the molded, just the way they like droop around everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
things look so like malformed, and that's exactly what I see in the swamp. Everything is just so malformed.
Yeah, it's a perfect setting for horror. Anyway, back on topic to the guest house. So we go to that secret hatch that you were talking about, right? And
Yep.
we have to climb down the ladder we climbed in the Ghost Hunters video, uh, where we saw, I think we were playing as Clancy. Who the hell gets murdered? Is it Aaron? Is that his name?
Uh, Aaron, something like that.
Eric.
Either way,
Eric or
the
Aaron.
the producer, the
And
star,
the,
and then the cameraman that you play. Which your producer goes missing, and you're like, okay, you two start looking around,
yeah,
and of course you find him at the bottom, and
and he
he's
gets
like
his head
already been
caved
like
in.
stabbed. Yeah, stabbed into a pipe, mouth first.
Yeah. You have to climb down that ladder, and you're expecting the corpse there. Because,
Yeah, just
like,
the dread.
you so much dread down this ladder, and then the ladder breaks on the way down, and you're like, shit, shit, shit. You don't want to turn around and look, but when you do, there's no corpse. This game, that's another like little detail that I love. It's masterful at knowing what you expect. It knows you expect a corpse there. It knows you expect like Jack Baker or one of the Baker family to jump out and punch you there. It's not gonna give you that there.
No, it's
You
not. Well,
get okay.
you first. You, sir.
No, you get the corpse when you wade through disgusting water, and at the absolute end where you think, oh, well, if they're gonna jump scare me, it's not gonna happen anymore because we're done. It happens at the literal last expectable moment where you feel completely safe. Like on my first playthrough, I put the controller down because it's like, oh, all right, easy peasy, and I got spooked out of my mind. It was so good.
Dude, that was what I was gonna mention because I that exact moment and just like the way it builds up to it with the fake out of the bubbles that happen as like you go through a
Yeah,
claustrophobic segment of the water segment of that tunnel. I was like, okay, there's a body like underneath these bubbles. There has to be. I was also waiting for it, and sure enough, they like did it super delayed and caught me off guard. And it just the opening hour of this game is just a phenomenal experience.
Near perfect, I would say. The only thing
Absolutely.
that I would change is Zoe on the phone, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you have to introduce
But
her at
it's
some point, I
necessary, you
guess.
know.
Yeah.
Uh, if there was a way to do that diegetically, like without the dialogue, if Ethan could have just said to himself, "Man, I gotta get out of here," that would have been better, I think. But that's just me. But let's talk about after that corpse. Who do we find, Jack?
You find your wife, and
I
she's
miss my
just
wife
chilling in a
tales.
cell. I'll be back.
Yeah, maybe
But yeah,
maybe
definitely.
maybe Ethan's just Eggman.
He could
Honestly,
just be Eggman. He's just so committed. He's such a faithful guy. Honestly, this is what if I'm stuck in a fucking bayou, like derelict, a kidnapping house, I swear to God, I better have my significant other coming to find me after 3 years.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't care.
fair.
Please come save me. But yeah, she's like behind bars and she's just chilling on a bed, sleeping. And like, but uh, before we talk about, interacting with Mia, just the fact that like the workbench outside of her cell is got a list of people that says
Oh
like
yeah.
turned deceased, turned deceased, and it's like, okay, wait, and you see the photos on the wall, and it's like, what happened to all these people, and like where, like what's going on? Like I see Mia, she's safe. How did she make it through all this? And it just
Oh yeah.
raises more questions than answers. It's like I found
At
my
least
wife, but what did I uncover?
at least for me, when I read that shit, I was expecting Mia to like, and this could also be because I saw a playthrough beforehand, but I forgot a lot about it. I just remember being super into it. But even on the playthrough as well, when I saw the Let's Player read that, and I was like, okay, I know what's gonna happen. I'm a genius, all right. Mia's gonna turn around, and she's gonna be zombie, and she's gonna bite my head off or whatever, and that doesn't happen. Because again, they know what you think. They set up that shit to make you think that, and then Mia's normal but stressed out. She says, and this is the one thing. Okay, maybe it's because my brain is rotted by TikTok Zoomer humor, but whenever they say "daddy" in the game, I can't help but laugh. It's like it's bad, man. They could have picked any other word, but they had to choose "daddy," and it's like "daddy's coming." I I sure hope he's not, but
I don't know. I don't. Sometimes I wonder, like, people say dad, father, daddy. I grew up calling my dad daddy just as a little kid
yeah, no,
because
it.
that was
I
normal.
think
But
it's just a me thing, and then I'm on like YouTube Shorts too much. That's essentially it. I think the
maybe,
Zoomer
I
brain
don't know.
rot got me.
For me, it's just it hits too close to home in some areas. Like
Ooh.
the fact that like I grew up as a kid and like, you know, I had cousins with that southern drawl who'd be like, "Daddy."
Hmm.
It's like, all right, yeah, this
Spooky.
this relates.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you find your wife and she's like, "Oh, you're here." I'm like, "Oh, good to see you, babe." But she's so confused and panicked, and she doesn't realize it's been 3 years.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Her memory
She,
is shot, and she knows that we're in danger, and she starts leading you through, like trying to escape because someone named Daddy is coming, and she's very terrified of him. And we're already hinting at like a toxic family here and familial abuse, which is really interesting. Uh, how much do you want to touch on that? We could
uh,
save it for when we're fully introduced to the Baker family.
Probably for
Uh,
the main house because we're
main
still like
house, yeah.
navigating our way out here. But just like navigating through the basement, Emiya is like trying her best to lead you, and you're just walking past like what looks like fleshy trash, like trash bags full of flesh and like organs, and like it just doesn't look right.
Gross
It
as
looks
hell,
it
yeah.
looks gross as hell. There's like an experiment table with like rusty chains and saws, and you're like, what the hell is going on
Going
here?
on here, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and also with this game, having found Mia and it being 3 years and she's not realizing it, when you look at some of the events in the game, I'm sure there's somebody who probably gets it very well, but on my first and even second playthrough, I was thinking to myself, what is the order of events here? Like, there are things happening, or I'm reading about things having happened, and I am absolutely like lost as to like at what point in time some of these things happened.
Oh, I think that's totally intentional to make you more disoriented as a player. Uh, they're gonna throw dates at you a little bit. You get the general idea that Mia was working and then Mia got abducted, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But like putting together a full timeline is very hard, in my opinion.
absolutely, and
I
it
could
does
just
add
be
to the
stupid though.
confusion. I could too. There's probably somebody out there who on YouTube is like, ah, yes, you see
Full
here,
lore
and like
breakdown.
1 year after Mia disappeared. It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
buddy. Like, just reading about things because I think it's all there, but it's presented out of order, and I think that's
Hmm.
what makes like a lot of the documents in this game fun to find because you're trying to piece together what happens. You're
Piece it together
confused.
piecemeal.
Yeah,
Especially on a first playthrough, because you don't know what the hell's going on. You read a document and you're like, okay, how does this piece together with what I know beforehand? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it also plays well into the missing persons thing again because you hear cases of
missing
nobody thinks
people.
about it, but like when was the last moment somebody saw that person, and then you're trying to latch on to every single detail surrounding that person.
Yeah, and a lot of it's sporadic. That's why most cold cases don't get solved or whatever. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. That's a
Oh
good
yeah.
connection.
But anyway, you get into that little room, and Mia starts freaking out, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, where's the door? It was here." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Hang on, calm down. Let me go check this closet over here." And one thing I do want to mention real quick,
Mm.
you do find a photo. I'm gonna list a as we go through. I wrote down a couple clues pertaining to a specific character surrounding this game. You find a photo labeled E001.
A
Uh,
biohazard.
yeah, but it's a photo of an old decrepit lady.
Hmm.
That's all you know so far. Anyway, you step into that
You want to call
closet.
her Aunt Rhody?
Aunt Rhoda, yeah, Aunt Rhoda. You find Aunt Rhoda's photo. She's she's just chilling, honestly,
Yeah.
living a vibe. You know,
Hmm.
good old Southern hospitality, I'm sure. You
True.
step into the other closet, and all of a sudden Mia starts screaming. You're like, "What the hell?" Run back, and she's gone. And there's an
Sh-
open door, and you're like, "Damn it!"
Yeah,
Like, I just found you. Can you like
and
not?
now you're gone. I think you have to get a fuse, right, to open up. Or is that later? That's later,
That's
because
later. That
that's
has to do
later.
with the
Yeah,
attic. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So you look for Mia, right?
yeah,
And the only path to find her is down the spooky ass stairs that you had just went up. And I don't know if it's just me, but even though I knew what was coming, I didn't want to go down those stairs. I didn't want a white woman jump scare. I was like, no, thank you.
dude. Oh my gosh, having to walk down the stairs, like I could see Mia crawling up the stairs.
Mm,
I didn't really know what was going on, of course, because I didn't watch a playthrough at all. I
yeah.
just like looked at her, and then she she starts attacking me. She like goes through a full facial morph in like real
Hmm.
time, and I'm like, what the hell? And she like
What the
chucks you up
hell?
the stairs. It's almost comic.
Oh, I wouldn't. It's like it's a little bit comic, but it's horrifying, especially because it takes that small comic energy and then you get a fucking butcher knife through the hand. And this is where I want to talk about Resident Evil 7 fully subverting like the first person horror game. You have games like Outlast where really bad stuff happens to the main character when they die, but like in quick time events, you usually expect, sure, I take a scrape or I take a like small blow. There's a video essay on this that's really good by Nick Nocturne as well. I think it's called Resident Evil 7 is like secretly genius or whatever. Very good, very cool. He talks a lot about this. But taking that butcher knife in the hand, you're suddenly like, oh my god, I can be maimed in this game against my will, even if I succeed a quick time event, or if I block correctly, I'm still gonna get my hand cut open, kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely. Which
great.
is it's so fun seeing that level of detail in this game, and it really adds to like the visual. Like, oh, I'm getting fucked up.
I'm a normal guy who is like in hell.
Exactly. I'm not some action hero. I mean, okay, by the
Yeah.
end, Ethan sure is kind of an
Oh,
action
he's
hero in a
definitely an
way.
action hero by the end,
Yeah,
especially with
but
8. I mean,
yeah, dude. Well, I mean, he got weapons training at that point, but I digress. But like,
weapons training. Yeah,
yeah,
sure, buddy.
sure, sure. That's just your average American family, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, like just the way Mia's like, we're gonna be a family now that you're here.
Ooh, creepy. I
I
love
know
it.
it's like, oh, what's this sudden obsession with family? Like, we don't have a kid. Where were you? You were gone 3 years.
Yeah. And then you have to fight your wife, which is
Yep.
like crazy. You bury a hatchet in her neck. Uh,
And she dies, and she like, well, she turns back to herself.
and I think she says sorry, right?
Yeah, she's like,
Or
Ethan, I'm sorry, and then she like falls over. And
and like again, Ethan being a freak has nothing to say about that. I love it. You know, it's just like I just murdered my wife, James Sunderland
yeah,
style. Doesn't
I
matter to me.
I
I'm
like to
chill.
think I like to think, we never ever see Ethan's face because the first
Oh, he's
person.
probably got an expression of horror,
Yeah,
but
I imagine he was in a state of shock. But I mean, like at that point, like, what would you do? Like, you're being like attacked by your wife. Self-defense, right? Like,
yeah, no, obviously you kill your wife there, but like it's I would say something. I'd probably
yeah,
be like, "Oh God, no,
it's like,
my
what have I
husband."
done? And then she like immediately like resurrects herself, and then she like just floats back up, and she's
Oh
like,
my
fucking
God,
hurt,
yeah,
and
dude,
chucks
I
you through the
love
wall.
that. Chucks you through the wall and then pins your hand with a screwdriver, and you can't succeed this quick time event. She cuts it off, just straight off. It is gruesome, and it sells this game fully. Like if we're talking about why this game feels realistic, it's because one, they set up the environment fully with good graphics. Graphics aren't necessarily set up an environment, but like we're just talking about this game, right?
Yeah,
Great graphics, amazing audio design, and a believable world with the VHS stuff, and a believable setting with the swamp. And then add on top of that a realistically vulnerable protagonist who is able to lose limbs. It's perfect. It sets this as real and incredibly scary.
oh yeah. Well, it's just like the way she like pinch your hand and walks around the
Oh,
corner for that chainsaw, and you hear revving it up, and you're like, dude, no. And you can
yeah.
see Ethan trying to escape, and inevitably his hand gets cut off, of course. But just well, and this brings into play the healing items, right? Like
Oh, yeah, yeah. The goop
just
juice.
the goop juice. I do not understand this goop juice. Like just the way you're
So
able to like, you
that's
know.
the one thing that I would want changed in this game. Uh, have you played Far Cry 3?
No, I haven't, but I do argue.
There,
I actually want the goop juice to remain the same.
I would prefer if like things like Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 2 is even better about this. When you have injuries, there's like specific animations that would play of like them fixing it. Like if your finger was broken, resplinting it back in. If your arm was broken, like shoving it back into socket, stuff like that. I think it would work a lot better if like the goop juice acted as an antiseptic bandage or something like that, where you could see an animation of Ethan like fixing it. I know it'd be extra work, and honestly, the game doesn't necessarily need it, but I
You
would
know,
like that.
I think as part of Resident Evil's identity, I think the bizarreness of that
The
simple
healing
healing, yeah, just the way
it
like you can reattach limbs just by pouring some goop juice on it is like,
and stapling it will
yeah,
get,
and
will get
stapling it. It's like
that's
your hand's
gnarly. I love
completely
that.
mobile.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
To be fair, the goop juice does add to the B movie flair of this of this not movie of this game, which is nice. I just me personally, if I was designing my dream Resident Evil 7, please put in the hyper realistic healing animations. That'd be really cool. Uh,
Well, let's see. I don't think we're at that point in the game, but I mean, like, Resident Evil 8 did do something retroactively to explain a lot of
I hate
that.
that plot point so goddamn much.
I'd have to replay Resident Evil 8. I didn't mind it too much. But in Resident
It's
Evil
so
7, I
it
just
makes me
kind of
so angry.
accepted it. Like, I just audibly chuckled, like, okay,
Ethan's supposed to be a
I did
normal
that.
guy. He's supposed to be a normal guy. Don't make him a special zombie. All right? He's supposed to be normal. He's meant to be the normal everyman. Why is he a special mold zombie? I
Hey,
hate it.
he still is the normal everyman. In
No, he's
Resident Evil
not.
7, okay,
In Resi
I,
7, retroactively, it makes him special in Resi 7, which I
yes,
hate.
but not knowing it at first. We're going off of not knowing it. Also, that's Resi 8. We can talk about Resi 8 another day. I
Oh,
love Resi 8, but also there are some things where like,
yeah, I love that. Well, I don't love that game. I really, really like that game. I think it's an amazing gameplay game. It makes me very sad, and we can talk about that with Resi 7 actually. Uh, moving on, you get your hand chopped off. Big youch, big
yeah.
owie.
And then you pick it up and it goes in your inventory.
Yeah, and I think this is where you find the handgun, or do you have to open the attic first before you find the
You
handgun?
have to open the attic before you find the handgun. But it's at
Yeah,
this point, Mia's gone away and you do the fuse in the
yeah,
VCR room and then you open up the stairs. Mia's like, I'm so sorry. And she like bangs her head on the wall, I think.
yeah, and that shows it's some early foreshadowing of how a toxic person was able to worm their way into this family and destroy the relationship between them, and is very good at manipulating people. It's very cool.
It is. Oh, I mean, especially because in this segment, she's like, I can hear her, and she like knocks herself out, and she's like,
Hmm.
and even when she's like being possessed with this chainsaw in hand, she's muttering like, "Must contain outbreak. Everyone is
Yeah,
relying on me."
burn it all
It's like,
down.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So like, she dips out
I.
for a second, and yeah,
Oh no, yeah. She dips out for a second. Keep going.
yeah, and then you go up into the attic, and um, yeah, you find the handgun. It's like, oh, cool. I only have one hand.
The one-armed reload is such a cool detail, by the way. The way that it's so slow and methodical, and like he's like using his stump to push in the magazine. It's great
It's absolutely awesome. But
in a gross ass way, but like it is
oh,
cool as hell.
absolutely.
Uh,
Okay, let's see here. So in this portion now that you've got the handgun,
yeah,
uh, trying to escape through the window per Zoe's instructions via the phone, and then Mia just comes in with a chainsaw, and you have to fight your wife
you
once
get your first
again.
boss fight. Yeah,
Yeah,
uh, it's pretty easy, but like it's cool to see like Mia be this aggressive towards you, and you already feel super unsafe. So even though it's easy, it feels tense.
oh yeah. Well, and like when I first played this game, I had no idea what her attack patterns were, of course.
Hmm.
And I run into another room, and she just chainsaws a wall open
Oh, dude,
and
that's so
bursts
cool.
through.
Yeah,
It was just so terrifying. Like, oh fuck, there goes my escape.
the variable scripted events that happen in this game, like people bursting through walls or cutting off limbs, are genuinely so cool, and they surprise me on every playthrough because there's always something that I have not seen before. Yeah. Uh, I want to say it could be because you played on console. I thought the thing was easy because I played on PC, and like the guns in this game, if there's one thing I would like change, they are way too accurate. Like the handgun on PC is genuinely, it's so easy to get headshots. Like you just hit, 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 hit. It makes most molded not scary, and the bosses like pretty too easy. Even on like hard mode, or what the fuck is the hardest mode called in this
Well, like
game?
Nightmare or something, whatever the equivalent
Nightmare.
is.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little too simple. Yeah, that makes sense.
No,
But
that's fair. I personally played on controller both times, so I've got no comments on the mouse and keyboard functions. But on controller,
it plays great. It's
it
just
plays great on controller, and I still feel like I'm pretty accurate on controller. But just the
mm,
way you hit enemies and their head like actually recoils back and it starts like drooping around as they stumble
such a
forward,
great detail.
it makes it so hard to shoot like the most
Yeah.
critical points. It's like, ah, damn it, like, come on, man.
Let me
Like,
hit you.
I know, like, I will actually take an extra 2 seconds pause just to realign my sight with their head.
Yep.
Yep.
So we kill Mia, or we kill in quotation marks Mia. We're trying to leave because, well, our ladder got destroyed. We can't go out that way. We try to go back the way we came. And then someone, a big, old Louisiana man, punches us in the face. Well, no, he says, "Welcome to the
Welcome to the
family,
family,
son,"
son.
and throws a haymaker, and we are out, and that is the start of the game, like officially. Great opening.
Absolutely. I love it so very much.
And then you get put in front of the family for dinner. And here's where I want to digress, but from the plot summary to like just talking about the family, I love them. They're my favorite Resident Evil antagonists because of how human they feel, like they feel like they've been twisted by the infection, but they retain so many human-like characteristics that it makes them terrifying. They remind me of like the family of cannibals in Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills Have Eyes, and those guys are way scarier than some stupid ass zombie named Nemesis who can only say stars, you know?
Stars.
These people have human intelligence but also superhuman abilities, and they like to toy with you and torture you because they're sadistic. It's amazing. They're the best Resi villains
Well, that's
by far.
because well, that's because they're the only actual evil residents in the entire Resident Evil series.
Well, Lady Dimitrescu is technically an evil resident. She has a castle.
Well, yeah, I guess she is the resident of a castle, but I mean, like, I don't find that relatable. I find the old paint-chipped asbestos Louisiana Bayou home very relatable. In fact,
Asbestos.
I kid you not, I love my great grandmother. I do not want to make it
Yeah,
sound
yeah.
like I'm building some kind of stereotype around like my side of the family, but um, my great grandmother's house we'd always go to her place for Easter.
Hmm.
And she's been in this house since my grandmother was a kid. And
Yeah.
just seeing like how there's old parts of the house, it's just a one-story house, it's not that big. But seeing how there's old parts of the house and new parts of the house that have been expanded on. I can walk into my great grandpa's room,
Yeah.
look through this window that clearly was there when it was just the old house, but it looks into a brick wall. And as a kid, I was always so fascinated because I always thought like it was a secret room. And I was like,
No,
what's
dude, that's
back there?
so
There's no
cool.
door leading there. Where do I get that? Turns out it was just a shed in the patio.
No, but that's really cool, and you can relate that a little bit to the Baker House because, like, you've got these segments of the Baker House that are super duper old and rotted, colliding with like Lucas's new inventions and like modern technology at the same time. It creates this really dizzying effect of like history and modernity colliding and making you feel very. I hate to use the word liminal, but it does feel like a place of passing. A passing of time is here where you don't belong here. It's great.
Absolutely. And I think that's why a lot of um the voodoo magic and uh like Cajun
Mysticism.
boogeyman, yeah, mysticism, that's the word. The
Yeah.
mysticism surrounding a lot of the Cajun and Bayou region is so fascinating to me just because like it is mostly lost to time and there's such a clash of cultures there to the point where even to this day a lot of like the Creole culture, like a mix of Spanish and French heritage
Hmm.
goes a long way. Like my met my grandma and her best childhood friend, and my grandma, her older family, not a lot of them aren't around anymore, but a lot of her older family would actually speak like French tongue to each other, and
Ooh,
then her
yeah.
best friend's family would speak Spanish tongue to each other.
That's
So just
really
like that
cool.
clash of cultures, like is so neat to see because it's like bleeding into each other to create this like mix of I don't know what other kind of culture to call it. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a cultural mixing pot or whatever. It is.
Exactly. But
Man,
going
that's
back to
cool.
the family, you're right.
Going back to
Like
the family.
like
Uh
they're crazy. Like
Kind of, but you can see like the remnants of their previous personality. Jack was the patriarch, so he puts the family in its place. He gets fed, the dinner. He makes sure that his wife isn't disrespected and his family is protected, even though he's insane, right? He shoves a knife in your mouth. That's definitely kind of crazy. Marguerite is the homemaker. Granted, she's spun off the rails, but she loves her kids 100%. You can see that in her. And she still makes dinner for them, stuff like that. Lucas was always a psychopath, so less
he
less
didn't
so with
really
him.
change much. But I mean
He
the
didn't
fact
really
that
change.
he was so disrespectful to Jack and you see Jack absolutely lose it and just cut off his hand.
Yeah, and that's like a father disciplining his kids. You can see the echoes of who they were before the infection, but it's twisted and awful, and it's amazing.
Yep. Well, and don't forget Aunt Rhodey is also at that dinner table, but she's
Oh, true,
like
true, true. She sits
completely
there and
unresponsive.
she's unresponsive and she looks like she's got dementia and like you're like, man, hello dementia lady. Cool.
She's sitting right next to you, just staring at you.
Yeah.
Like, and
It's
you're
really
like, you're the
creepy.
only one I can count on.
Have you seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I haven't. I
You got
I
to.
don't know why.
There's a
I have
scene where
to.
the family is eating dinner. That I feel like this scene with Resident Evil 7 is like directly referencing a little bit. Granted, it doesn't have the same outcome, but the fact that you got all these psychos together on the same table and they're like interacting with each other and it's kind of campy and a little bit funny. Like I can't be the only one who laughed when Lucas got his hand cut off. Just
Oh,
a
I
little bit.
did.
Like it's horrifying, but you know it's funny. Definitely riffing off the scene in Texas Chainsaw. Uh, so we don't eat our dinner because it's rotted food. Ethan, Giga Chad that he is like, nah, bro, I ain't eating that shit. Spits it out. And Marguerite loses her mind. She's like, he ain't eating it. He ain't eating it.
I
And
love that
Jack,
whole segment.
it's so good, right? Because it's like, it's campy and a little funny, but it's also horrifying, especially when Jack takes his knife, shoves it in your mouth, and you can hear the teeth grind against metal. It's like, ugh.
So
But
visceral.
eventually, what? The reason why they leave is the policeman is like knocking around. Apparently, there's a police guy, right? So they leave you alone, and you break your way out.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it's so funny how easily you broke out of it.
yeah. To be fair, they are crazy, so
It's
maybe they don't know
true.
how to tie a knot.
I guess not, even though they have like these elaborate puzzles and engineering contraptions.
Lucas has elaborate puzzles. Jack's the one who took us, so
Oh,
maybe
this is
Jack.
true. He's kind of like he is the patriarch figure, so he does a lot of the housekeeping stuff. And
Yeah, maybe he's a
as
boomer.
you
And
well, and as you go through the history of the family, it turns out Jack was a Vietnam War vet.
oh, I didn't. I don't
You
remember
didn't
that
know that?
honestly.
You don't
I
remember?
did not.
Yeah. So like there's actual photos of like especially in the bedroom, there's a photo of
Mm.
Jack and it like explicitly states like Jack in his
And
uniform.
his
And he,
fatigues. Yeah.
yeah, and he's like in his like marine dress uniform and he
Oh,
is from he's a Vietnam War vet
makes sense
if
why
I'm
he's so
not
strong.
mistaken. Yeah, exactly. And just like how like he's got such
And
like
why
a
he's got so
brutish
many guns
nature.
lying around.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's just neat because also like you
Oh, that
walk
does
around the
explain the
house.
shotgun because that's like what is that? I
Yeah,
don't know what
it's on a
model the
bus.
shotgun is, but yeah,
It's
it's on the bus. But it looks like my dad, not my dad, my granddad has a shotgun like that. He served in Vietnam. It looks almost exactly like that shotgun. Uh, so
yeah, product of its time, and it
yeah,
you also find like the books around the house too that like have a lot of like military and leadership style
yeah.
titles.
So let's talk about this because you found something that I didn't know about. I think in this segment when you break free
Yes.
from Jack, right?
Yep.
So the normal segment is you break free, you look around, you find some photos uh, and some documentation, giving you a little information about the family, just what they look like. You notice that Zoe's picture is scratched completely out, but you see what the family looked like before they were infected and insane and didn't take showers. Um, uh, but your goal is to get to this latch, and you need a key. Problem is, Jack is stalking the halls, and they do a really good job of selling him as a stalking antagonist, like Mr. X style kind of thing. He'll bust through walls, jump scare the shit out of you. Uh, on my playthrough, I grabbed the key. He chased me down. He choked me out a couple times, swung at me. I blocked, but I was totally fine. I unlocked the hatch. I went out. What happened with you, Jack?
Yeah. So same thing happened on my first playthrough, but on my
Yeah.
second playthrough, I I knew what to do. It's hard to get around him to get to the other side of the hallway, especially
Mm-hmm.
after interacting with the cop and you have the pocket knife, but that's it. And
Yeah.
I knew how to loop him, so I baited him to the living room. I had enough space, like plenty of space. He was behind the couch as I was like literally in the kitchen
Yeah.
running past the fridge. I unlocked that hatch, and as I'm spamming to open the hatch, he full on, I don't know how he did it. He must have sprinted or something like I had never seen before. But he like grabbed me, turned me around, threw me to the ground, and actually took his shovel and chopped off my leg. He
It's
chopped off
so
my leg,
cool.
and I was bewildered. I was like, "What the fuck? I've never seen this before. I have never heard anybody talk about this before." And
Yeah.
I've seen a couple Resident Evil 7 reviews, but I had heard
Nobody
no
talks
mention of
about the
this.
chopped off foot.
No, not at all. And he chops off my foot, and I was just like jaw drops to the ground, like, oh my gosh, he actually just did that. And your vision's fading, and I'm like, oh god, I'm gonna bleed out. And then Jack walks to the other side of the room after tossing my leg aside, plants down a healing bottle, and he just squats there like, come on, come get it. And I'm like,
So
oh my
cool,
god,
man.
I'm actually doing this. I
Were
crawl,
you
get my
able to
leg.
heal and put the leg back?
Yes, I was, and that's what makes it so funny with the healing item
Yeah,
because I kid you not, your hand is stapled.
yeah.
Your leg though, the thing you're supporting yourself on throughout this whole game is completely clean chopped off. I simply take my bottle, hold my nub up, stick my leg up to it, and pour the bottle on, and then my leg's good as new. No staples needed. And
And the
Jack's
goop
like,
juice
"Ooh,
works.
good. We're gonna have some fun."
Dude, I love that. It sells him as a sadist so well. That is really cool. I got the pocket knife this playthrough after going through the trapdoor. You go through it and then you walk up, and then I got the policeman to spawn and give me his pocket knife. Can we talk about this policeman?
Yes.
I hate him. I hate him so much. Stupid fucking moron. Okay, dude. You see Ethan, he has staples on his hand, alright? You can see his hand in plain view. He looks like hell, more than likely. He just had a knife stuck through his teeth. He's probably got fucked up teeth and is bleeding, alright? And he says, help me, please. And your first thing is, what are you doing here, boy? Like,
It's just like it's like, do you not see the house that you're at? Like, there's
yeah.
literally barbed wire on the outside of this window that's
And
boarded up.
he acknowledges the missing persons cases, and it's like Ethan's like, yeah, I'm one of the missing people, please help me. And he's like, I don't know about that. Maybe you meet me in the garage and give me all the information you have, because Ethan has to bargain with him, and then the dude gives you a switchblade instead of a gun because he's a fucking jerk. I don't know, man.
I don't know. I think I don't know how it is in the state of Louisiana, but I'm quite certain, like, just by principle, like law enforcement and military people, like,
Can't give up their
do
gun. I
do
get that.
do not give up your weapon, like,
Yeah, yeah.
legally.
Legally, you probably can't, but it's a horror movie and a horror game, and like,
I mean, the guy was super skeptical. It's like, dude, come on, like, do you
yeah, to
not
the
see
point
me?
where it makes no sense. Like, I don't know. I get that Ethan's from out of town, right? But these guys are kidnapping people from out of town. There are people on the list that are from out of town who have come in to visit, and then they're gone. Like, if
Well,
you know about this, there's no excuse for you. You're just silly and stupid.
unless for some
But
reason this guy just happened to know the bakers and looked the other way for the most part. I don't see why
I
though.
don't believe that because he comes in to investigate. Like,
And the bakers freak out when he shows. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, and he
This
gets his
guy
head
was
fucking caved in by the.
not even caved in, just like
Sorry, yeah, like
stabbed clean off.
split clean off with a shovel, which is one of the coolest deaths in the game, by the way. I really like that.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
do too.
but you want to talk about this garage boss fight?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. This
So
boss fight I love so much. It can go a couple different ways on how you beat Jack.
yeah. You can either on my first playthrough, I didn't even use the car because I couldn't find the car keys. I
How'd you not
it's
find the
been
car
a
keys?
I didn't look hard enough because I was treating it like Dark Souls, Jack. I'm gonna be completely honest.
Oh, that's
I
fair. That's
was
fair.
I was dodging and then I was blocking and I was using the knife to stab him because I was like, I'm not using my pistol. I'm going to knife this man until he dies. And I did. I did the knife. I did the knife strat. Uh, this playthrough actually. Well, not this playthrough. A couple playthroughs out of there, I used the car to run him over. This playthrough, I tried to do it, and Jack stopped me, and he was like, "Oh no, boy, I'm driving,"
He
and
just yanks you out and tosses you
yanks me out
aside.
and starts doing donuts, and it's like, okay, all right, game, I see. I think that is a fail state usually because I don't think you can kill him out of the car at that point.
You okay? Actually, my first my first playthrough, I managed to run him over. Second playthrough, I got that exact same thing.
Yeah,
He ripped me out of the car both times, but I actually managed to dodge his donuts, and I shot him a bit. I don't know if it was me or if it was a timed out thing, but he did end up running himself into the like barrier.
rebar.
Yeah, into the rebar.
Okay, cool,
Yeah, so
cool.
he had full control of the car. I did not manage to get that back, but he actually did manage to kill himself.
Yeah, I think it's a damage threshold thing. I just took that as a fail state this playthrough because I'm like, man, I don't want to waste ammo. I was playing a bit like a greaser. I'm not gonna lie. I'll just sit through the cutscene again, and I'll get in the car and I'll run him over, which I
There you
did.
go. I tried that my first time, and then he got it back, and I was like, all right, fuck
Yeah,
this. Like, light him up.
shoot him.
I'm the kind of guy who min maxes a boss arena. I will run around grabbing every single item just for my journey ahead. I will,
Oh yeah, I came back, got the chem fluid and what healing thing this playthrough.
yeah,
Uh, so Jack in a scene that's really cool. Like at least if you get it with the driving one, he like finally after you do enough damage running him over, he gets in the car and he's like, "We're going for a ride, boy!" And you're revving up, and he starts positioning you to two steel rebar beams, and he's like, "All right, time for us to die," or some shit like that. Steps on the gas, you narrowly avoid it, and he impales himself. And then to showcase how crazy durable these zombies are, he gets out, looks incredibly fucked up because he's getting burned alive too by this car because it
yeah.
starts smoking and burning.
But then it blows up, and then
Blows
you're
up.
like, okay, he's surely dead. Like,
Surely he's done. You climb the ladder. No, he's not. He grabs you by his hand, by your hand, and he's like, "I'm gonna show you her gift," and blows his head off with your gun. And
dude,
you're
that
like,
the whole
"What the
scene
hell?"
was just so over the top. But you're just
It's
like,
amazing.
it's over top in the way that's just like, dude, why won't you die?
Yeah, and it cements Jack as like this unstoppable force. You are constantly terrified of him because you're like, I can't put him down. I can't stop him. I just need to run or slow him down.
Absolutely. Well, I love how seamless these scripted segments are. They
Yeah,
play out like cutscenes, but it's actual gameplay.
yeah, it, yeah, because the game engine doesn't change. It is just quite literally like in-engine footage. They are, I think they're technically cutscenes because like they're scripted events, right?
Yeah, technically speaking, but even then, like just
But the fact
even
that
if
it
it
doesn't
switches
change
to a
camera
cutscene,
POV or anything, it's amazing.
yeah,
People simp for the fucking God of War 2018 game. And look, okay, it's a good game. It's all right.
I love that
God of War,
game.
God of War Ragnarok's way better, but like,
I agree.
um, they're like, oh my god, it's all done in one shot, guys. Isn't that so cool? Yeah, Resident Evil 7's done in one shot, dipshit. All right,
Yeah, and well, and
and
Resident
it's
Evil
way
7
cooler.
actually screwed around with you, like your head's being jostled around as
Yeah,
Jack like
and
manhandles you.
the camera is used in a much more intelligent way because they're thinking about, all right, how do we restrict your information and make you more scared and fit in with the themes? Whereas God of War 2018 did a oneer just to do a oneer. It's like, all right, guys, I get it. It's over the shoulder, and you're trying to be a prestige drama. Why are you using the camera choice? Because it looks cool. Sure, buddy. All right, you're not thinking about the camera like Resident Evil 7 or well, yeah, Resident Evil 7 or Silent Hill 2 original. Uh,
Oh man, oh man. I
can't
think
speak on the remake for SH2, by the way, but it's so good. It's very good so far.
I'm having a fun replay or a fun playthrough of SH2 remake. It's a lot of fun so far.
Yeah, we'll have to do a pod
Dear
on it.
viewer, yes, we will get a pod on this, and hopefully we get the return of the Dan.
Ooh, yeah.
I
Let's
was
talk.
talking with him. I gave him my PS2 with OG Silent Hill 2. He still hasn't beaten his first playthrough, but I'm trying to tempt him and be like, hey buddy, why don't you finish the game?
Mm,
That way you can be with us.
maybe we can tempt him through some other means. Blackmail.
I thought you were gonna say pinups of Maria, but
Pinups of Maria? You know, that'd be a decent way to tempt him. Maria pinups would be interesting,
it
I
would be.
guess.
But I mean, Maria's not our focus right now, Joel. We gotta find
No,
Mia.
we got to talk about
Another
Margarita. Oh,
another horror game character that's of interest that happens to be a woman and has a name with an M.
yeah. I can't
Interesting.
believe Elster didn't go after Marianne instead of Ariane.
It should have been.
It should have been Marianne.
Everything's Mary.
It has to be M. All horror game women have to start with an M.
But yeah, you get out of this garage and you finally make it back to the main house. And finally you have some breathing room. Thank goodness it's not Jack Baker chasing me through the halls. You actually get a moment to explore
Yeah.
the house and
Zoe calls you and you're like, I put your dad down. And she's like, you may be actually able to do this or something. And you start to feel pretty cool about it, you know? You're like,
yep.
yeah, I can do this.
Oh, I love the part where it's like I don't know if it's at this segment or like later on, but I like how Ethan's just so fed up. He's like, "You didn't have time to mention that." Like
I think that's
how
later on, but
that's
it
probably
is,
later on actually, yeah, because you haven't
yeah,
talked to Zoe since the guest house.
yeah. I think it's when she talks about the serum with the old house, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. Oh, probably about Marguerite in particular.
Yeah,
You couldn't have
I
warned
didn't
me
hear that.
about that.
You could have warned me about that, dude. I love Ethan's vocal delivery. It's so weird, but he's so endearing.
Well, he is so endearing because he's just so done. He's like,
Yeah,
"Are you for
he's
real?"
like, I want to leave here. This place is scary. I want my
Yep.
wife.
Oh man, but yeah, you do get to explore the main house, and trying to get that shotgun was fun, but also like,
A little annoying, right? Because it's like
yep.
I just want to take it, but I'm getting locked in.
I
There are a
love how
couple
the game
puzzles.
teases you about it because
Yeah,
you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, upgrade," and you can't have it, and you're just like, "Why can't I?"
it further teases you as well because you like go up to the second floor with the unlocked door, and you're looking and you see a shotgun through the mirror, but it's locked behind the scorpion door, and it's just like you can't have this. You can't have this. You're gonna be broke. You're a broke bitch. You know.
It's like, I'm sorry, how about you go solve a projector puzzle and then go into the basement?
I like to imagine like the Donald Trump hands with that, like solve a projector puzzle. You broke, dumb bitch.
It's like, it'll be a great time, wonderful time.
Wonderful time with the Baker's household. The
I
best
do
time.
I do like the projector puzzle
I
quite a
love
bit.
those projector puzzles, actually. Granted, they're the most unrealistic thing, and they sort of take you out of the experience a little bit. I don't care. I like playing with shadow puppets. It's really fun and cool. Uh, it makes me feel smart as well in like the dumbest way possible. Like, I like hard puzzles. Those aren't hard puzzles, but they scratch me in a way that's like, yeah, I did the Rubik's Cube. I'm a smart
Yeah,
cookie.
it's the
Yeah.
serotonin rush of like, I did that.
I did that. Yeah.
It's like, okay, somebody in this household created that puzzle, so they all know the combo.
Yeah.
What
Uh,
I what I like
you do.
about this game, especially since you have to find the three dog heads,
Mm,
is realizing how far Ethan makes it compared to other people.
mm.
And
Especially
like,
compared to like Clancy or
yeah, Clancy. Well, and also like in the save room after the shadow puzzle, you actually do find a note about somebody like writing to someone else. Like, I couldn't quite make it this far, but I hope
mhm.
you stand a better chance.
Yeah, no, I think it's a little bit one, Ethan is like motivated by love or whatever, but two, I think it does help that he has those notes beforehand. It's a collaborative effort to beat the Bakers, and that feels kind of nice to find notes from people who came before you to try to help you out, you know?
Hmm.
It is really cool to see that. So this is a little bit of a freeform segment. You've got to find three dog heads, and there's a lot of puzzle solving. I don't know how in depth you want to go with puzzle solving. Uh,
Yeah, we don't have to go too much on the puzzle solving just for the sake of time, and also I'm sure our viewers probably will experience the game for themselves, hopefully. But
hopefully we're selling it
yeah,
well. Uh, but you do a lot of traipsing through this area, and again, atmosphere is a 10 out of 10. It feels really horrifying going through this area because of how still everything is. Uh, this is where I talk about my first playthrough and how I am a little piss baby. Uh, sadly. Um, so I was handling the scares pretty easy, probably because I saw a Let's Play beforehand. But it'd been a few years. I forgot a lot of the scares. Jack Baker still got me a couple times. He got me to not like jump or anything, but I was like, oh, yeah, I see you. Good. I play a lot of horror games. Usually I'm not very scared by things. But they had a way of ratcheting up the tension in Resident Evil 7 to the point where I was on a razor's edge, needle thin nerves. I walk up to the second floor. I'm on the balcony of the second floor. floor. I see a locked box, and I'm like, oh, I got a lockpick. I'll get something out of it. I think it's 4 shotgun shells. I walk next to it, and the wind hits, and it hits I think it's like a screen or a board or something, and it makes a loud noise, and I audibly, and my roommates heard this, I screamed, and they asked me, oh, what happened? What was so scary? And I had to be the guy who said, the wind got me. And it was over for me. This game is great, but the environmental scare got me, and it was just like, man, am I just a coward? Like, what is this? You know?
Oh yeah. Well, it's like you're, the rest of the Baker family's still out there because on that balcony you have the potential to see Marguerite roaming through the yard.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like just the fact that they're still out there is enough to be unsettling.
Mm.
And the second floor, I like the billiards area. It's very puzzly.
Yes, and
The
you can do the Mia videotape there, which is
yes,
really cool.
the Mia
You want to talk
videotape
about
is
the Mia
cool.
Do you want to talk about the Mia videotape, or do you want me?
Sure, I can talk about the Mia videotape because I love
Yeah,
this
you go.
segment. Just the fact that you can find this videotape, or not find it at all, but find it at any time and use it at any time. You know, I used it pretty early on
Me too.
in my playthroughs, and just seeing her perspective of her running into the old house, being chased by Marguerite. Ugh, ooh, excuse me. Being chased by Marguerite. It's such a rewarding segment of, oh, okay, this is what's going on with Mia. I was wondering what was happening to her.
Mm-hmm.
She's not in the best of circumstances right now, and she sees this little girl um, across the water in the old
Ghost Girl.
house. Yeah, Ghost Girl. Speaking of, I forgot to mention, but the hatch room where Jack cuts your leg off, you can
Mm.
actually find that girl's boot on the ground
Oh yeah, I forgot
and
about
pick it
that.
up.
I
Yeah,
didn't do that this playthrough, but I did do that first playthrough.
yeah, I didn't realize it before, but either way, back to the old house. Mia's out there and she's trying to navigate, and it's cool because what she sees will not be the same as what you see since Marguerite
Mm-hmm.
enters the fray. But she does provide the solution to another projector puzzle, and you start to follow her path, and so making it to where you're both simultaneously rewarded of her perspective of, okay, I understand like what's happening to her. Feeds you story bits, introduces a character to you, introduces a different perspective, but also provides solution to puzzles as like it's a reward for having explored in a way.
Yeah, it helps you a lot. It also introduces ahead of time. If you get this early, another weapon, the flamethrower. You can find it in the trash, and it's like it gets you like primed in your head, like, ooh, I'm gonna get to torch some things later. It's really cool. And also, I think it's really effective at setting up the old house for different scares that'll happen later. I remember, after the projector room, right, puzzle with the spider, for the old house where you start to crawl through there.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
in Mia's segment, the VHS stuff is grainy, right? But there's nothing in there other than just, wood. And you see Marguerite lurking around. When you go to the old house as Ethan, there is like mealworms and gross larvae crawling through it. So it just subverts your expectations based on what Mia went through. And it's great. Um,
Absolutely. I love that. Like it's just so grimy. Like you weren't expecting that, or you were
yeah,
expecting something and then you got hit with something completely different.
something way more grimy. I will say, this might be just a me thing. On my second playthrough, Marguerite is not that scary. Her voice acting is great. Her presence is great. But her jump scares, especially in the Mia section, dude, I said white woman jump scare one time to myself, and it was never scary again. Like she grabs me, and I'm
And
just like, oh,
drags
that's a
you.
Karen. That's a Karen at like Kmart or whatever. Wait, why the fuck did I say Kmart? Those have been gone forever. Walmart, and it's like I can't see it that any other way. It's literally just and like at the end of the segment when all the lights go out and she's just like looking at you like, where do you think you're going? I'm just like, to get a refund. Please, I don't want you to talk to the manager.
Well, I love how she cuts off your axis as Mia, and you're just
Oh
like,
yeah, that
oh
is cool.
shit.
You are like all shit. But I was desensitized and I was thinking, oh, white woman jump scare. And like I was not being scared anymore. I was close to laughing.
Yeah, Marguerite pre like transition is not that scary on a subsequent playthrough.
When she becomes a spider lady, mm-mm,
Yeah, no, that's
spooky.
a completely different thing, and we'll be getting to that by the end of this episode. Just you wait,
Hopefully.
listener. Oh, we will.
Yeah.
I am adamant we will.
Yes.
Yes, but
Okay.
going back to the Ethan section in the main house, finding the three dog heads.
Yeah.
Jack Baker makes his triumphant return after the second story
He
bathroom.
starts stalking you.
Yeah, and his face is growing back, all weird.
It's great. And he says, "Why don't you accept her gift?" or something like that. More hinting. And she wants to make you part of the family now. Uh, it's great. It's like getting you ready to be thinking about, okay, who is she? What is her gift? This sounds really dumb, like literature primary school level, but like it is important questions that you start asking yourself as a player. Like, who is she? What is her gift? It's probably the zombie stuff, right? And why does she want me to be part of her family so bad?
Yeah,
It's
it's
very cool stuff.
bizarre. Yeah,
Yeah. So you find eventually all three dog heads, though I do want to talk about one of them, which is hidden
in the
in the
basement,
morgue. Yeah,
the
the basement.
dissection room they called it.
Mm-hmm. Which is where you have to get through a second boss fight. But you go down to the basement and you first fight the molded. Now, dear viewer, if you will cast your mind back, I think about an hour, honestly. We talked about the molded as emblematic of the swamp. These are the only non-boss enemy in the game, I would argue, right? Uh,
I would think. Well, besides the
unless you count the
bugs.
flies, but like,
Yeah, I mean
do we
they were
really
just
want to
kind of a
count them?
nuisance.
Yeah,
Not necessarily. I mean, for the most part, the molded are like the true opposition of man versus nature in this game.
yeah.
And stepping into that basement and seeing all this mold everywhere on the walls is so unsettling, especially
And
because
then
you've had
one
only
peels
one.
off.
We've only
Yeah,
had one encounter with a mold at this point. It was upstairs in the trophy room.
yeah.
So you're introduced to the idea. So now you're in like the basement, thinking, "Oh gosh, there's so much
It could
more,"
be anywhere. Yeah.
and it's just such a
And
good transition.
to put on to your point of missing people, these are the missing persons. All of them. They have been corrupted and molded by an outside influence, or should I say, an inside influence, a Resident Evil, if you will.
A newly evil resident.
Yes, yes, indeed.
But yeah,
God, dude, I love the
realizing
title of
that
these games.
same here. Realizing that these were the people
It's a
was
little sad.
yeah, I know it's quite upsetting, especially once you make it to the boiler room or the
Ooh,
burner room and you face
yeah.
one and then you realize like they were all put in here just to like be trapped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's rough. I will say, I think I kind of sequence broke this a little bit because I this playthrough I didn't do get the dissection room key until after I got the shotgun, so I was able to grab the scorpion key like ahead of I fought through the molded with the pistol and I ran out of ammo and then grabbed the knife. I think intentionally, I don't know. I think you're supposed to go into the jack fight with just a pistol, but like you can go in with a shotgun. I
I
know on
don't
my first playthrough I rushed with just a pistol into it and I was fine because they give you a chainsaw later on. But I don't know. I was able to grab the shotgun this time, made the fight way easier, especially since I had a bunch of shotgun ammo. But it's cool how it can account for multiple possibilities of like going right through.
I agree. I personally get the shotgun both times just because I'm a min maxer. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'll scour every corner of the map. I don't care. It's like it's gonna happen. So I had that shotgun going in both times, but this the basement's so claustrophobic in a way with all
Ooh,
the amount
yeah.
of enemies that come at you.
It is a marked turn because the house is really, really scary, but the basement I feel is like actively threatening. Like the
Yeah,
house
the way
on
it
its own,
imposes.
yeah, on its own, the house wouldn't be. It'd be really, really creepy. It becomes extra scary with the bakers. The basement on its own is just implicitly threatening, like with the mold growing and all that. It feels awful. Uh,
Yeah,
let's talk about this boss fight. So you've got two dog heads at this point. You got your shotgun. You got your pistol. You're feeling good. You got a lot of ammo, a lot of healing items. You enter into the dissection room, and you get a cutscene. of Jack Baker ranting to himself about how Ethan's gonna be, well, not Ethan, he's gonna be, but replying to you essentially. He's gonna be her father, not me. I'll make him suffer or whatever. And he hangs up the
Yeah.
deputy to turn into a molded feller.
How
Uh,
exciting.
so exciting. But he runs away. So you think, I'm fine. I don't see him in this room. And there's the dog head hanging up right there. I'm just gonna go grab it. And Jack will grab you and say, what the hell does he say? Something along the lines of where you think you're going, boy, or whatever, and throw you down into a boss arena, which is one of the coolest boss fights in the game. I love this boss fight. It's so fun and cool. It becomes less scary. Like, the game is super scary, but at this point, the game's like, all right, you've been scared for a long time. Let me let you have some fun, okay? When you kick body bags into this guy, unload lead, and eventually he decides, nah, we're not fighting this way. We're fighting with chainsaws, and you
When he
engage
grabs
in
his
it.
chainsaw scissors after tearing open a
Scissors, yeah.
bar.
He looks like, what's the clock tower antagonist called?
Oh, Scissor
Uh,
Man.
Scissor Man. He literally has the chainsaw Scissor Man thing, and you pull out your own chainsaw, and you engage in this, like, it's Revenge of the
Chainsaw duel where you're locking
Chainsaw duel.
chainsaws.
It's Revenge of the Sith-esque, you know? It's fun as hell. It's so cool. I want
It is so
whoever
fun.
came up with the idea of the chainsaw duel to have, like, give that man all the raises possible, because this is the coolest shit. Peak cinema.
Oh yeah, well it plays out kind of differently each time, but my favorite line in the game is when Jack opens up the bars and he goes, "Ooh, groovy," and Ethan just
Yeah,
responds, "That's not groovy."
that's not groovy. Dude, I love Jack Baker. He's so deranged. He's the perfect villain for this game. Marguerite, like, if I had to rank the Baker family, it's Jack, Lucas, Marguerite, probably. Not saying Marguerite's bad. I love Marguerite a lot, but Lucas is my Saul Trap king, so he has to go ahead.
Of course, and then Jack's just Jack, like he's
And
iconic.
Jack, he's perfect. He's genuinely, like, the best antagonist because he's campy, but he's such a sadistic asshole. Like,
Oh, he
it's great.
absolutely is. Well, and I didn't realize this in this boss fight until the second time around. Again, I don't know why my leg keeps getting chopped off in my
You got your
second
leg
playthrough.
chopped off?
Yeah, I kid you
Yeah.
not. I was literally locked in an engagement with him, and usually, he winds up his attack, but I guess I was just so close that he literally just, without, in the blink of an eye, swiped down at my leg, and it just got chopped off, and I was all out of healing items by this point. So I'm
You
holding on
bled
to my
out.
leg, bleeding out, and I just died.
Oh my gosh.
I
That's
was like,
cool.
what the hell? I didn't have time to react.
Yeah. I love how unpredictable this game can be because even if you feel like you're on top of the world, you have a bunch of ammo, healing items, stuff like that, the game can just cut off your leg and be like, deal with it, motherfucker. It's amazing. Uh,
Absolutely. But
anyway, after
alas, you beat him.
you beat him, you win the best segment in the game. You also break your chainsaw getting out. So, they're officially signaling to you, all right, no more fun. Time for scary times to begin again.
Have fun. Bye bye.
High five, bye bye. And I will say that is one thing that the pacing of this game does really, really well. The bombast of previous Resident Evil 7s, not Resident Evil 7s, previous Resident Evils, it still exists in this game. There are incredibly bombastic moments. I can think of, again, Chainsaw Duel, or when Jack is like the blob form later and you blow up the whole water shack that you're fighting him in with the grenade launcher and fire spreading ever. There's still like huge set piece moments, but it's the fact that they occur sparingly and the rest of it is intense, quiet horror in between
Absolutely.
that
It's
makes
almost like
them
the
way
boss
more
fights.
memorable.
It's like the boss fights are your relief in a way.
Yeah, you definitely your relief. Except for Marguerite. That boss fight's
Marguerite
terrifying.
is genuinely scary.
Yeah, because I find her less scary when she's not in her boss fight, but when she's in her boss fight, yikes.
Absolutely. But anyway, it's at this point, if you've explored and done all the puzzles, you get the three dog heads, make it outside. Finally, you're in the yard, and it feels like such a monumental moment
Yeah,
of finally escaping back outside,
you
even if
feel
you're not off
safe
the
in that
property.
trailer because it's Zoe's trailer, and
It's always,
like,
yeah, and you haven't met her yet, but I mean, it's so homely.
Yeah. Well, you met her over the phone, and she calls you again, and she tells you that you need to synthesize a serum in the old house. And if you're me, you spend a little bit of time in the trailer getting ready for the old house because the old house is creepy, and you've watched the Mia tape, and you're like, gross. I don't want to be there.
Yeah, screw that. Let me just use my coin that I found and put it into the
Yeah.
bird cage.
Oh, what did you get this playthrough? Uh, so like, what was your first one?
Oh, my first one, I got the steroids, the health steroids.
I got the reload speed one because Macon told me, uh, shoot faster. Don't worry about health. So,
Don't worry about health. I mean, I guess, but I found I didn't have as many healing bottles as I did on my first playthrough, so I
oh
was
yeah, no,
like,
no, no. I was running out of healing bottles too. I probably should have taken the steroids, but
oh
you
well,
know, oh
shoot
well.
faster.
Shoot faster, I guess. So you eventually, after saving and hearing Zoe out, have to venture into the old house. And do you want to start this one off?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
I mean, you follow the same path that you followed in the Mia footage, but just,
hmm
without the grain, you can actually get a good visual on what's around you and just
And the
seeing
creepy dolls.
the creepy exactly the creepy dolls hanging overhead and just seeing how the house is elevated over the water and just
Yeah.
it's truly a relic of its
Ominous.
time. Yeah, so ominous. And also, I forgot to mention, I haven't mentioned them so far, surprisingly, but the save rooms in this game just feel so
Oh,
peaceful.
amazing. I love the music in the save rooms because it feels like a stripped down version of the Resident Evil theme. Like you cut almost everything out of it. It's rotted, decayed, and molded away. It's amazing. I love the feeling of that. One other thing I wanted to touch on, by the way. Dementia Grandma keeps showing up at weird places and
Oh
humming Aunt
yeah,
Rhody to creep
l-
you out.
like at the top of the stairs when there's no
Yeah.
elevator.
Top of the
But
stairs when there's no elevator. After the Jack boss fight, she will quite literally be there, doing Aunt Rhody again. And it puts you on edge, and you're like, okay, Grandma, leave me alone, please.
it's like, what are you doing here? It's like I haven't even seen her move. She just kind of spawns in
I
other
think her
places.
head follows you as you walk as well, which is
Oh yeah,
like
that's like all she does. But she's like very
really
clearly like
creepy.
she's mostly a vegetable. Although
Yeah,
it
she
came to the
just,
point in the game where I saw her so much that I was kind of like, hey, what's up, Rhodey?
what's up, Granny? Yeah. Anyway, old house. You
Old
enter
house,
in.
yeah. You enter in and you're clearly trying to follow Mia's footsteps. You know what to do at
Yes,
this point, but there's bug nests around the place. And oh boy,
annoying
does
bug
Ethan get
nights.
yeah, dude, Ethan gets stung like to hell and
Yeah.
back. You can see it all over his hands. It's gross. It's like, ah, God, like I've been there
It
before.
makes it so very satisfying when you finally get the flamethrower and you're able to burn them away and then get the loot that's hidden behind them. Like,
Yes.
man.
Well,
But
like
you deal with,
Bernie is integral because you have to open up the fireplace where you see
yeah,
Lucas take Mia, that whole thing.
yeah. Oh, Lucas takes Mia and he says something silly to Ethan where he's like,
Yeah.
go on, go do something or whatever. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah, he
ain't you
says,
gonna do something about this?
yeah, I have it written right here in my notes. He comes along as Mia's like freaking out and she's in shock. She's like, I don't remember what's going on.
Yeah,
Ethan tries to get answers. They're being separated by a wire fence, and Lucas comes along and snatches her and he goes, "Daddy, right? Mind if I borrow mommy for a bit?" And then he says, and then he gets panicked and rushed because I think something's messing with his head, and he's
yeah,
going, "Don't just stand there, do something."
yeah.
You like, yeah. And so like, either way, back to Marguerite. I know it's like a small segment in there, kind of.
No, it's a good segment because it keeps you motivated to keep going through the old house. You do some puzzle solving, and Marguerite, by the way, as a stalking antagonist, again, I don't find her jump scares that scary, but her dialogue is great. It is unhinged. She talks about how she loves feeding her babies and stuff like that, and how you're ungrateful or whatever. It's amazing dialogue to convey this like really deranged mother type because she feels like she's showing love, but at the same time, it is like barbarism at the same that she's exhibiting through her
Exactly. It's like
actions.
such a threat. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you love this family? I do everything for you.
Yeah, dude, it's really good because it is playing on anxieties that she had before she was infected. I'm sure there were times in the Baker household, back when they were all very loving people, that Marguerite felt neglected, right? And this is bringing it up to 11. Not because it's a bad relationship or anything, but it's just that people in general can feel neglected because of whatever, right? It's hard work doing stuff at home, you know?
Exactly. Well, evidently, like this is the old house, but she's got her own little area where she's got her own notes and
Yeah.
uh like psychology that you can see as she's like visiting the doctor back before she turned.
Yeah, yeah. And she's getting schizophrenic delusions from the mold in her head. I like how they have an in-universe explanation for that. Uh, and how, furthermore, it is established that people were trying to help the Bakers because they're like, you really need to get this checked out. You really need to do something. And the fundamental problem with the Bakers as a family, that what caused their ruin, is the fact that they didn't get things checked out. They let things fester and like pretended to be normal, pretended to be okay. They let the black mold grow, and that's why the mold is such a good metaphor for the familial collapse, you know?
Absolutely. It's just there's so much to it with so many like gears moving all at once. It's great. And I love the
Yeah.
psychology of it all and just the way the game does a wonderful job of showing psychoanalysis.
Mm-hmm.
And you just with the gameplay, you have to get across and
A
go through
bridge.
the get across the bridge, go through the spider hallway that Mia opened up and try and get to the other side to get upstairs and find the serum.
Yeah.
And dude, just I love how the centipedes pop up and Ethan goes, "Fuck this."
Yeah. He had my reaction. For real,
Yeah,
for
I
real.
was like, "Oh god, I'd hate to crawl through something this tight with bugs like trying to jump down my shirt."
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm not like a big anti-bug person. Like bugs don't scare me fully, but they're gross as hell. And like it has a similar effect to like James Sunderland. I hate to bring it back to Silent Hill 2, but like the holes that he sticks his arm in, you know? It's the
Oh
same
yeah.
idea where it's like sticking your arm in a hole isn't scary, but the squelching and the grossness is what makes you like curl up inside yourself and
Oh yeah, but
cringe.
just like having to crawl and have my face in a bunch of bugs, like
And a bunch of
hell
bugs.
no.
Yeah, oh, it's so good at like just being gross and unsettling.
Yeah, it's so unsettling. And yeah, so you do all the puzzle segments again. You make it to
Yeah.
the door that leads upstairs. And then of course you have to run back and get the key. I got up there. Oh, it's
Mhm.
locked. Let me go find the key. I grab the key, walk back up. Marguerite's just there somehow. She
Yeah.
like throws you into a hole and you do a little mini fight interaction.
Yeah.
She falls in the hole, you kill her. But then she
Yeah.
like realives and burrows a tunnel all the way over to the I want to say
Arboretum
like
or whatever.
Arboretum, yeah.
Garden. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's where
like
you end up fighting her. I remember distinctly the one scare where she comes up and she's crawling like a spider, and you're getting there, and she pops through a window and like looks at you.
yeah.
Gross. And you shoot her a bunch because obviously creepy spider woman popped through a window at you. Uh, yeah. I don't know. Her dialogue's great too.
It is
But that's
wonderful.
obvious. Obvious.
Before we
Uh,
get into the Marguerite boss fight, real quick,
yeah.
the note. So, is at this point really? I mean, you have suspicions, but you really start to realize how the family treats Zoe, especially because it's in Marguerite's diary where she's like,
Hmm.
Zoe tried to get into the upstairs, and she
I'm
was
gonna
so
skin her
pissed at
alive or
her.
something.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, this is where like the weirdness of order of events. Like Zoe's been here the whole time, like Mia, and
Yeah.
she hasn't turned, and she's just been like 3 years in neglect.
Hmm. There is a reason for that. Uh, it's because she distrusted Evelyn the most. I think it gets like described in the DLC or whatever. Uh, but I really do like how, and again, it plays on that thing of the idea that, Zoe is neglected a little bit. Because I think she's older than Lucas, right? Or is Lucas older than
I thought
Zoe?
Lucas was older than Zoe. I kind of
Mm,
saw them as having like a, you
Brother,
know,
like a
closed
younger
off
sister.
older brother, like stop touching my shit. And she's probably like,
Yeah. Either way, Lucas required more attention from the parents because he was the original like mold, the thing that was causing the family to like drive themselves apart was Lucas because he was a like genuinely latent psychopath. The dude was torturing animals. Like you can find it. This might be later, but when you're up in the house going through the nursery and stuff like that, you can find that. Uh, so Zoe kind of got neglected a little bit by her parents. Uh, and that is brought up to 11 again by the infection, with Marguerite, instead of just being slightly like forgetful of Zoe, is now like, I fucking hate you, Zoe. I'm gonna murder you, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, it's
It's great.
wild.
Great stuff.
Absolutely. I love this whole segment. And I just looked it up. Yes, Zoe is younger
The
than
younger.
Lucas. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's interesting how, like, you know, siblings are great and all. I love my brother.
I
Love him to
love my
death.
brother and sister. No
Yeah.
complaints.
I can
They
tell you
would
for a
not
matter of
murderize me.
I can tell you for a matter of fact though, my brother and I growing up, like, we got into a lot of feuds.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I was definitely that older brother on my part who was like, Stop, like, get out of my room, stop touching my
Stay out of my room.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you."
yeah. I can't relate. My siblings and I have had a pretty even keel relationship, I would say. But like, I get the idea 100% because
Yeah.
I've seen it, in real life.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyway,
one day you just wake up and you're like, this guy's all right.
yeah, no, you're like, man, maybe I should have let him play Halo with me.
Be on the same team now instead of against each other.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway, yeah,
Marguerite boss fight. You start this
yeah,
because I'm
so
assuming it played on some of your fears a little bit.
it did. So I do not like bugs, of course, but I have a huge fear of arachnophobia. I have a huge arachnophobia.
Yeah.
So this boss fight, when you walk up to the arboretum and it's all just dilapidated and there's holes in the walls and things like that, and you just walk up, and again, it's one of those seamless game segments. She just jumps at you like out of a window and grabs your legs, and you have to
So
quickly
good.
take your pistol or shotgun and start shooting at her to get
Shooting
her
her,
off you.
yeah. It's
And
so
she's like, at this
grody.
point, she's malformed, and she's like, she's more like spider bug than
Fighter than
woman.
lady. Yeah.
Yeah, like her limbs are super long. It's kind of like, oh God, what is it? Whatever. The best description I can say, if you that long-legged monster from the back rooms in a way, but worse than that, more like an SCP. You know,
Yeah.
if you can
I
imagine it, it was like that. Just the lankiness and the unsettling, like, disproportion of.
the rake from like the creepypasta thing? Let me see the
Yes, yes,
image.
that's what I'm thinking of.
It's kind of like that. It's better in my opinion because I don't know. The rake is kind of goofy. IMO.
Yeah, but like the similar, like, disproportions of the body and how
Yeah.
she's like used to be this dainty old woman. All of a sudden, she's crawling in different places. You know,
Breaking it. She's also on a very like on the nose symbolism of her being the mother. She's got this protrusion, a hive in her stomach, and it's constantly giving birth to, you know, insects. It's kind of gross, and it plays on that like almost. I feel like there is like in our culture kind of like an implicit fear of like childbirth because of well, one, actually a lot of cultural things, but also because childbirth throughout history was like incredibly hard and scary, and like you had a very high possibility of dying in doing it, kind of thing. So to
yeah,
see it like
absolutely.
twisted like this makes it extra scary. It was also interesting that they were working with ideas like that of motherhood and childbirth and like being a parent here, which would go on to inspire like that idea would be taken in Resident Evil 8 and turned into the horrifying fetus monster that you fight. Well, not fight, run away from.
The
Uh,
baby.
yeah.
Yeah, no. I
I
just
think this is.
I
Oh,
find it
yeah.
fu- I find it funny how in this boss fight, I mean, for the most part, it was tense, and just the way her feminine parts are malformed. It's
Hmm.
interesting how the critical spot to shoot her in is her hua.
Yeah. I don't know if it's exactly her vagina or if it's like more where her womb would be, but like,
Yeah,
yeah, it
either
is
way, it's in
gross as
place of
hell.
that. Yeah, and the way she's
Yeah.
birthing out bugs, like, I mean, that's just the image I got.
It
Just like,
is genuinely like really disturbing, and it feels like a full perversion of this woman and what she like once was. Because she, again, if you look back in history, very kind woman, very nice woman, great mother kind of thing, and it's subverting that and turning it into like this horrific uh fake idea of what a mother should be. And if we talk about, I'll get a little spoilerific here. Whoever she is who wants you to accept this gift, I think it's revealed to be Evelyn, right? By this point in the game.
Yes, yeah, I think so because you've been introduced to who Evelyn is, and there's mention of Evelyn, but I don't know if you necessarily piece together that it's
Who
the
Evelyn
little
is.
girl.
Yeah. But Evelyn is shown to have, through this, because she's influencing Marguerite, a very contorted and childlike understanding of what motherhood is. That motherhood is just making babies, if that makes sense. It's not beautiful or anything, it's just childlike and
Exactly.
silly.
It surrounds, yeah. So I think it is probably good we mention Evelyn now because
Yeah.
it can be pieced together that she's the biohazard and she's got the manipulative
Manipulation.
control
Yeah.
over the family, and that's the reason why all this craziness is happening, why Mia's there and things like that. But you're right, just the way that, as a child, especially like a brat like Evelyn,
Yeah.
she's like, it should be all about me. I want a family. You're my mother. Do what I
Yeah.
want.
It's very interesting as well that she plays into like I hate to get well, no, I don't hate to do this because I like it because I like reading lit critique like this. Uh but like I feel like you could make a very interesting feminist critique of this a little bit where if you think about it as like Evelyn has this normative force where she's forcing like patriarchal and matriarchal idea not matriarchal patriarchal ideas onto I didn't want to say matriarchal. I did want to say that it was affecting motherhood, though. Patriarchal ideas of motherhood and fatherhood upon the family, and forcing these two like people, Jack and Marguerite, to play roles that they are not comfortable with, that destroy their bodies and force them to be bad people. If that makes sense, it's not good for their relationship. But she's like this force of culture saying it has to be this way. You can't be like a kind mother and you can't be a nice father either. You can like actually, I think if you look at that with Jack as well, it's really interesting because you can see how those like ideas of like fatherhood and toxic masculinity a little bit, like that Evelyn is forcing on him, is driving him insane and like causing him to harm those around him. It's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, it's evident later in the game that Jack was a kind man at one
A
point.
really kind man, actually. Like, I don't want to oversell it, but the Baker family are kind of saintly by the end of the game. Like when you get to meet
They
them,
realize, well, and you realize the whole reason they're in this mess is because they actually did a
good
human
thing. Yeah,
humanitarian good thing and like saw, they rescued Evelyn and Mia.
yeah, and it's like you feel so bad for them at the end. It's genuinely masterful.
Absolutely. But, the Marguerite boss fight happens, and just to go off the environment one last time before you know, we
Yeah,
move on from this segment. I love how you're frantically trying to unlock doors as the boss fight is happening, and how Marguerite,
yeah.
I kid you not, it wasn't just the window she would jump out of, it would be the roof, it would be her crawling on a pillar. I'd actually be scanning all around 360 degrees up and down, looking for wherever she's going to jump out next.
Were you pulling a bit of a Mr. Worldwide pitbull from the window to the wall?
You know me, dude. I was doing more than the window to the wall. I was doing the window to the wall to the roof to the floor.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, but anyway, you kill
Oh,
her and she
mm,
calcifies.
yeah,
And yeah, and so you get her lamp. It's interesting how like it's calcification.
yeah. I don't know what they're doing with that, other than it looks cool.
Yeah,
That do you have any
it could just be
ideas?
a, not really. If I had to search for a meaning in it, I don't know, maybe just like the corruptness finally gets to them and like corrodes their body in a way, I guess.
Apologies, viewer. My roommate was helping someone put together a PC, and he just said, "Yes, victory. These walls are thin. Keep going, Jack."
I'm glad it worked out for him. But if
Yeah.
if I had to dig for a meaning of that, I think it's more of a visual thing.
Hmm.
But if I had to look
Cool
for a meaning in
shorthand.
it, yeah, you could pull, you know, in the end they were like very corrupted and it caught up to them and
Yeah.
it just it corroded them away.
It calcified them into their final horrific shape or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, so I
It's a
think it just looks
decent. It's a
cool.
decent reach, honestly. Better than the Rugrats are dead. So, and that got like 2 billion views or whatever.
Oh, that was so stupid. I was
Dude,
never a
I
Rugrats
hate.
kid.
I wasn't either, but like I hate that stupid dumb shit theory where it's like, everything has to be so dark all the time. No, dude. Sometimes Rugrats can just be Rugrats, all right? It doesn't have to be all of them are dead and one of them has schizophrenia or whatever. Like, no.
Yeah, I don't, beats me. I don't know. Either way, you get her lantern, and we're coming to a close on this episode, but we have to talk about one more segment before we can
What
leave
one
the
more
old
segment are
house.
we talking about?
We're talking about opening up the second floor, the rest of it, that is, with his
Hmm.
lantern, and actually
Yeah.
venturing into the dark, horrifying, and mystifyingly ominous rooms that
Oh
is
my
the
god.
child's area.
Dude, you take this.
Yeah.
You start.
So
It's
it is so interesting. We've established at this point the Bakers only have two kids.
yeah,
However, going through this segment, you find like sporadic drawings on the walls that appear as you go
very
through the level,
childlike.
just like the ones in the guest house that you found in the basement when you found Mia. And it's like scribbled circles everywhere and emphasis on family, and it's all kind of like mad and distorted. But you find a whole like tons of children's shoes in the nursery, and the movement of a ball as you're trying to work your way through the second floor. And you pass by a piano at one part, and it just plays by itself for no reason.
Creepiest fucking thing in this game, by the way. My like when I saw that on Let's Play, creeped me out. I forgot about it. First playthrough, genuinely, I didn't get like okay. I didn't get like scared where I was like, or whatever. But I stopped moving my character and I turned to the piano and I was like, no, that's not right. And then I kept going. It was
Yeah, it's
so
so
bad.
unsettling. Like it's
Yeah.
just this is the most ghosty portion of the game.
Oh yeah, I love it though. It's so ominous. And okay, I could be misremembering. Because I played to Marguerite and stopped there. Like when I killed her, I didn't do this part yet. Uh, you see Evelyn in this part, right? Or not yet?
No, you don't actually.
Okay.
It's evident that it's supposed to be Evelyn. Clearly, like this is her
Yeah,
area
because there's baby
because
toys everywhere, and there's
baby
the
toys, and when you there's a bear's mouth, or sorry,
mm,
there's a stuffed bear chilling out in one of the rooms. You can actually pick it up and look at it, and I certainly did that. And then after a second or two delay, the bear's mouth starts corroding with mold, and it looks like it's
yeah.
baring like evil teeth and bleeding out blood. Like
I remember that.
it's creepy. And so you walk into the back, uh, and the lights turn off, and Evelyn says, "Stay away." Like she's actually talking to you.
Hmm.
Um, once you get to the very back of this level, you find the detention room with a bed in the middle. Super creepy. Like that's prime boogeyman territory. My bed
Yeah.
needs to be against the wall. Like Any
Why in the middle?
why in the middle? That's just the scariest thing that you can possibly do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Messing up the feng shui.
Yeah. Seriously, it do not do it. It's bad juju, especially in voodoo
Yeah.
country. No thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, you have to find the D series arm. So like that's why you're back here.
Yeah.
Really, I
Yeah.
forgot to mention that. You find the
It's
secret
for the
door.
serum.
Yeah, it's for the serum, yeah. You find the secret door, and you go in, and you find the D series arm sitting in a chair connected to some kind of corpse. I gotta say, I don't know where these serums are coming from or how they ended up in like these weird zombified bodies, but that dude, that's messed up.
Hmm. I think it's from their. I don't know, man. I think it's genetic engineering with like
It
whatever. What's the
definitely is.
umbrella? That's the fucking name of the stupid
Well,
corporation.
no, it's not Umbrella anymore, actually.
Well, no, I'm talking about the where it comes from, right? Because isn't Umbrella the first
No.
originator?
Okay,
Or
so if we really want to take a sidestep into RE lore real quick, because I've looked into it and I could be
yeah,
wrong in some parts, but just a crash course before the end of this episode. Um, by this point, Umbrella's fallen. Like Umbrella, as we know it from Resident Evils 1 through 6, is not the Umbrella we know anymore. The Umbrella
mm,
symbol, if you're to go off RE8, is actually
is
just
ancient,
where
right?
it's an ancient logo that Umbrella adopted after the director visited and decided to create Umbrella Pharmaceuticals for
Yeah,
bioengineering. So it's a logo that they stole. But either way, there's an opposing corporation now that you're going up
that
against.
Mia was working for.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
They're a competitor, so that's what it is. But anyway, going back to it, um, yeah, it's still weird how they have these D series things. Like clearly genetic. It's probably fetal like
It's
experimentation.
yeah, either that or I mean, it has to be if you're messing with the genetic code, right? CRISPR babies or whatever. But you
Absolutely,
do
but
see with the upstairs of the house, you can see the idea with all the shoes and stuff like that of somebody rapidly aging, and with the D series arm, you could say that that's one of the experiments that aged and then died and then calcified.
true. That's a good point.
Yeah,
It's so hard to say, but it just adds to the confusion of this
mystique.
entire game. Yeah,
Hmm.
like what is happening here? Like there's no answers to some of these questions.
Yeah.
And you just it's at this point, you get the serum, you turn around and you do see Evelyn's feet and she runs
Hmm.
off as you approach. But then as you enter back into the detention room, it's gone from having blank walls to these completely like scrawled over walls with the frantic circles I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really
Grody.
horrifying. Yeah. Either way,
Grody fucking level.
grody. And you get jumped by molded, but we can skip past
Yeah.
that part because, scares. Anyway, at this point, just to end off this episode, you make it back to the trailer, try to
You
call Zoe.
save.
Turns out Lucas has kidnapped Mia and Zoe, and he
And you
taunts you
gotta
and he
deal with
laughs at
Lucas's
you.
soul traps.
He's like, "Come
I
and
love
get me,
him.
buddy."
I love him so much.
He's
One thing
great.
before we end off the pod, and we can talk about this more next episode, okay?
Yep.
Uh, is that wait, where was I? Resident Evil 8, okay? And the Resident Evil series in general. I'm slightly disappointed. All of the games are fucking phenomenal, first and foremost. Gotta say that, right? But the fact that they didn't follow Resident Evil 7 forward, like they create this seminal touchstone of horror, and then it's just action game after that, if that makes sense. Resi 2 is good. It's not as scary, but it's like permissible. But then you get Resi 3 remake, which is way more actiony, in my opinion, especially with how they sort of neutered Nemesis a little bit. And then you get Resi 4 remake, which is the ultimate action game. And then you get Resident Evil 8, which is phenomenal game, right? But an action game as well. The fact that they didn't follow this forward with more horror, yeah, it's rough.
It is a bit, but also at the same time, like I don't know, it makes me appreciate Resident Evil 7 so much more just
It
because I
does.
think you know, looking into the development of this game, the developers knew they couldn't pull another RE6, and so they
Hmm,
went all in on like, okay, what was Resident Evil 1 to people? And before Resident Evil 7, it could be argued that Resident Evil 1 was the most horrifying game of the series up to this point. Like in terms of genuine like horror. And so they went back to the roots of, okay, let's explore this old mansion-esque house.
yeah.
And they actually took trips to Louisiana um to surveil, and I don't know. I think like the
It
gothic
just
nature of 8 is interesting because it
it
is
is
living.
interesting. It's just not
It
scary.
doesn't yeah,
And
it's not scary. It's like Halloweeny in a way.
yeah, and my problem with it is it's the same thing with like okay, Silent Hill 3, awesome, phenomenal game, but it feels like a step back from Silent Hill 2, if that makes sense. Like we have this forward evolution and we don't pursue it. And that's what Resident Evil 7 to 8 feels like to me as well. You push the genre forward and then you start playing it safe again, if that makes sense. And granted, I'm not asking you to make a genre defining thing every single time, but please just follow your innovation, if that makes sense. Uh, and that's what makes me I love Resi 7, but I do get a little sad when I play it every now and again. It makes me feel like there's some wasted potential, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's absolutely valid. I think I don't know. It probably has to do with the fact that there was so much writing on this game, but also like you don't want to replicate the same thing over and over. So
True.
I can understand trying to seek creativity in writing.
Yeah. I
But yeah,
it's they're not bad games, by the way. I like genuinely most. I wouldn't give a Resident Evil remake. Well, 3 I'd give a 7, but like every other one, the recent Resident Evil games, I wouldn't give below an 8.5 kind of thing. Most of them are like superb experiences. It's just Resi 7 is near perfect. What can I say?
Yeah, absolutely. One line I did forget to mention before we wrap up this episode. I know we keep talking
Yeah.
about wrapping up this episode. I forgot to mention. I love the one line where Marguerite, like, you know, you killed her in the hole, but then she starts tunneling in her giant, like, lanky form, and Ethan sees like just a glimpse of it, and he goes, "What the fuck? That's special."
That's the perfect place to end it. What the fuck? That's
That's
special.
special. Oh
Yeah,
man, I cannot wait to talk about part two and the rest of the game. It's gonna be fun. I
I can't
cannot
wait
wait
either.
for Lucas's saw room.
Lucas's Saul room. I love Saul, Lucas. Lucas Saul Kramer. Anyway, this has been the All Nighters 2 podcast. Gotta include the two. Um, with your host, Jack. You got any closing words?
Uh, that's special, and that's not groovy.
And Joel, uh yeah, I don't got anything special other than Ethan Winters is a freak. We can all agree on that, right?
Yeah, yeah, yo, yeah,
Yo
yo.
yo. Oh no, not the
Not,
that should be our
not the
outro
Ethan
music.
Winters song. It will, dude. Next episode, it's gonna be the outro song. Dear viewer, if you do not know what I am talking about, trust me, there will be a link in the description next episode.
Look, Chris Redfield really wants the Redfield line to continue. That's all I'll say.
That's all we need to say.
Anyway, good night. Sleep well. Well, it must be morning for you though. You've been all night